person here in my apartment. And I was like, what the heck? So I went into the kitchen and I grabbed a kitchen knife and I walked over. And it was just Bob the Builder. Bob?
Sometimes I'm just looking for a late night snack. Maybe some Oreos, corn pops, whatever's on my mind. And I usually enter uninvited, but they let me live in the basement sometimes, so I feel obligated to steal their Oreos.
Wait, whose basement are you staying in? We don't have a basement. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. Or welcome if you're new. I'm Christina, this is my brother Spencer, and we made this podcast to just show that communication is key in all aspects of life. If there's anything that we talk about in the podcast that you want to hear more on, or if there's anything that you don't hear us talk about that you would like our opinion on, you can always let us know either on our social media, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can let us know in the comments below. We're also on Spotify, so if you're doing your daily run or you're chasing after Bob the Builder, just pop them earbuds in and you can just listen to us.
Yeah, Bob has some words of wisdom. Indeed. Yeah, follow us on all those platforms. I see that we've had a lot more interactions in the comments. I mean, it's steady. It's been staying like that. We love to see that, so we appreciate the support in that way. Whether it's being funny or you're trying to personally attack people, honestly, all the comments help us get better regardless, because it's just a form of communication. So we're glad to see whatever comes by, and we always reflect and look at each comment. So just keep that in mind whenever you're, pushing on maybe a topic, because we love to talk about anything that y'all bring in for us. So thank y'all. Yeah, so we'll get into it. There's a lot that's happened, as they could probably tell.
Yeah.
There wasn't an episode last week.
There wasn't an episode last week, and the week before was just the previous video, the second half to it.
Yeah.
So we technically haven't done a video in like
3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all remember, I believe we talked about in the last podcast that you were going to be away for a little while. So tell us about your trip, your journey.
So, they brought me into the psych ward about 2 weeks ago. What if that
We didn't want to tell y'all, but he was getting a little crazy.
Yeah, I started eating corn flakes instead of corn pops like Bob. Yeah, Bob is sane. He did find the basement, but yes, it's definitely been a journey. I now have traveled. I haven't counted the states, but I'm pretty sure I've traveled half of the United States now with the journey. So the idea was I was going to see two different friends. One lived in North Dakota and one lived in Oregon, which is very far. It's 20 hours from Texas, at least where we stay in Texas, to the place in North Dakota, and then 20 hours to the place in Oregon. So it was just very long driving, and then it was a day and 8 hours to get back here. So it was a very long journey. But I mean, there's so much that I haven't even told about all of this story, because how can you fit 2 weeks of so much new things into one spot? The person I probably told the most information to, at least as of so far, is our brother. I talked to him on the drive back when I was coming from Dallas. So, I mean, there's so much to unwrap about it. I don't know if you have any specific questions of the areas, or while I was traveling, things that were going in your mind. Did you have anything?
The first place you went to see, who was it?
It was Ariel.
Ariel, right?
Yeah.
And it was a lot colder out there than it is here in Oregon.
So the trek was interesting. So where I stayed was Omaha, Nebraska. That was where I stayed for the first night, because I realized driving at night, it's not necessarily bad. I just think there's way too many risks. You might not see deer, you might not see ice, the police could pull you over. All of the likelihood is so much higher. So I was like, I'll find a place to stay and, actually take this as a vacation /trip because I'm not really known to do that. I like working. I like doing what I do. So I wanted to treat it like that because, I mean, I also didn't want to mess up with my sleep schedule because even though I did when I was at those places, because it would be like late nights, but most of the time I still went to bed around the same time and I wake up about the same time. But I stayed in Omaha, Nebraska, and it was crazy because literally I was 3 hours from the location and it was 76. And then this cold front comes in, it gets super windy, and then I get to Omaha, Nebraska, and it is now below freezing, and I felt like I was driving in a blizzard.
Oh my God.
Because the snow was just rolling in. It was crazy. And I was still doing Instacart out there because it was still a business trip in a way because I wanted to test those areas out, the major cities at least. So Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, I did get an order. It was at a Natural Grocers in Costco. But the Costco is where I remember where the snow was coming down and the wind was high. It was like 30 miles an hour. And what was crazy is at the same time, this is when Texas was having all their fires. Oh. That was the wind front that brought that in. And what's crazy is I saw that on the way back. I saw the areas where it was burned because I went through the top part of Texas.
Yeah.
But that's later in the trip. But I made it to Omaha, Nebraska first. And that is a place I would consider living. It was actually a nice spot. I liked the scenery. It was somewhat hilly, and it was the Midwest, which I've always kind of been fond of. I've thought about going to Kansas City before because it's cheaper, but also I just like the area, at least from the pictures that I see.
He's also a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, no, I am not, and I'm not a Taylor Swift fan either, and I'm not, what would they call them combined?
I don't know.
Swifties, or like...
Oh, you mean her fan base is Swifties?
It is Swifties, but there's like, I feel like there's a combo of both of their names that they have.
Probably. I don't know. Trailer? No, that sounds wrong.
They're a trailer.
Tavis, maybe?
Tavis? Maybe, yeah.
You just combine their names.
Yeah, that's true. I just feel like there's like a specific name for the ones that are about both of them.
I don't know.
I feel like it's a select few. Usually it's like one-sided. Either you're a Swiftie fan. Wait, is it Swift? No.
Swiftie.
I keep thinking it's Swiftie, but it's not. That's just Taylor Swift by herself.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not like the huge Swiftie where I know everything. So I would only assume it's some sort of combination of their names.
Yeah, although their names are fairly different, so it's kind of hard to combine them.
I mean, they both have T's and A's in them.
That's true. I feel like we're playing that game where you put the letters.
You just keep putting the letters and it'll spell out words.
Wheel of Fortune?
Crossword?
You're not wrong. I mean, crossword is one. But I was thinking where that lady's like, bing, A's,
okay, that's
bing.
Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, I was thinking Wheel of Fortune when you said that. You said crosswords. There was a crossword that I was looking at. It was from the New York Times. It was when we were at the Airbnb in Oregon. And I was like, what would these answers even be? Like, I had no idea what any of the answers were.
Was it like about Oregon or?
No, it was the New York Times. It was a newspaper that they left there for somebody. And they always have like crosswords, Sudokus, all that stuff in there. But I didn't know the answer to the questions. Like, one of the questions I thought the answer was NATO, when they were talking about nations that are under something except for it excluded one country. And I was like, that sounds like NATO. It was something I've never even heard of. It was like ARC or something. I was like, what is that? I didn't research it, so there's no answers on it. But it just threw me off. It reminded me of that crossword, though, because I had no idea what the answers were. And I'm not terrible at crossword, but...
Apparently you need to get better because the New York Times just schooled you.
They did, and I'll have to hit up the local bingo clubs to get that up. I'll be like, hey, you do that New York Times one this week? Can I see your answers?
You're at bingo, not like a crossword.
It's before bingo starts.
Oh.
Or maybe after bingo, but they might be a little...
It's the after party?
They might be a little tipsy, so they'll give me like fake answers. Or they'll just hand over the sheet. Depends on who I talk to. Velma is a little bit nicer about it.
You gotta gain their trust first.
Yeah. Maybe shank him a little bit.
This is not a prison.
Well, I don't know. You were talking about knives earlier.
Okay, so after you stayed there the night, and then I'm assuming, made it there?
Yeah, I made it there the next day. It was in the afternoon. It was probably about 4 o'clock. What was cool is the time change never happened because you go straight up. So I didn't go to mountain time. Whereas I went through 2 different time zones on the next run. But I made it to North Dakota, and just the scenery in general of the Midwest, it is like very flat. But I do like how each state has like their unique like look to it. Like on the way back, Wyoming kind of surprised me. I'm like, what are these hills I'm looking at? Which I do want to provide photos at some point with all of this because I did take photos. They were in the car, so they're not going to be, and I was on while I was driving too.
So you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing while you're driving. Do not participate in these activities.
Take videos while driving.
And then it just plays the dumb ways to die.
So many dumb ways to die. What's interesting is that actually came up recently. Like a conversation involving that game. I think I was the one who brought it up. So that's kind of crazy how that operated again. How like that energy works of like that one day that I came in. The one time that we did the podcast and we were talking about that, you were talking about how at work, she just knew that you were going to be there that day.
Yeah.
That's what just happened again because I'm like, you brought that up, but I was the only one in very recent times that had brought that up. So that's crazy. We were like 2,500 miles away from each other, yet still connected. That's kind of like how twins work, though, because
we're not twins.
Don't
get people thinking we're twins.
Not twins. We are. But
I mean, we're very close in age. We're only a year apart, but we're not twins.
Yeah. Wow, socials. Felt like that
you were out here being like, yeah, it was 20 hours trying to give our location away again.
How would they know off of 20 hours off of no towns?
They just have to calculate.
Okay, let me give you towns.
You said 20 hours from where we are here in Texas.
Yeah, but is it on the dot? Like
they're about to figure it out, and now they got a closer vicinity.
Yeah, but they already kind of knew what area we subsided in.
Because you keep giving out clues.
Dun, 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 Blue's Clues. Figure it out.
There's actually a guy on TikTok that he takes people's TikTok videos, and based on their background, he finds out where they are.
Oh.
He makes a video about it. He's like, well, you see, the background of this matches this hotel, and then he even gets it down to the room. He's like, you have to be staying in like a presidential suite because of this and this. And I'm like,
and then it shows like the back end of like what he does. He's just opening every door. Open up!
I gotta find out which room you're in.
Or he just goes in after the people like depart. They're like, they checked out. Go in the room. Go, go, go. And then they're like taking pictures as quickly as they can. And then the maids come in. Move! Just to figure out.
The maids are on it too? What is this, a scavenger hunt? Where it's like the person that figures out where they're at wins $1 million.
Ming, ming, ming. Yeah, that's what they like try to guarantee them, but they never actually pay them $1 million. It's actually Monopoly money, but they're still happy about it.
It's like, man, I've been trying to win in Monopoly for forever, man. I'm in debt right now.
Let's roll the dice. I'm willing to bet anything on it.
Oh no, I'm back in jail.
Literally, that would suck. Like, I feel like there is that one person in Monopoly that always goes to jail, and they're like, "This game sucks."
They're like, "This is rigged. I always end up in jail."
What if it was like that for every board game that you played? You always went to the worst spot. Like in Sorry, you'd always lose your character. How does Sorry work again?
You don't ever make it home.
Oh, that's what it is, right? Oh my god, that would be so depressing too.
Or you end up in Knockerton Alley.
Yeah, with Harry Potter, yeah, you just have all of that happen to you. You would probably never play board games again if that always happened to you.
In Candyland, you have to keep going 10 spaces back.
Oh yeah, you have to go down like the slides. Yeah, that sucks.
In escalators and eels, you keep getting eels.
That's the only thing you ever roll. Like you have 100% chance. That you would have like great betting odds on the person. You would be like, they're gonna lose this game. I'm betting on it.
And then you roll eels.
And then you lose the game. No! And then you inherit the curse and they now are winning at board games. That would be crazy. That could be like some lifetime thing where you can just pass it on to somebody like that.
Or you're playing poker in Las Vegas, you lose big time.
Yeah, you're like, it's gonna land on red, and then it actually doesn't even land on the table.
It goes well, they still find it. If it goes off of the table, they'll go find it.
And what does it land on? Is it like on red carpet? So they're like, red! Or it's on like the black tile, so they're like, it's on black! I don't feel like it would work like that. They would just re-roll it.
No, because that person could get mad and sue them and be like, no, that was my roll. Especially if they rolled...
What? But it's off the table, so they lose everything.
Especially if they rolled correctly. Like, if they rolled the right thing, they could be like, no, I rolled the right thing. Just because it landed off the table doesn't mean that I didn't win.
But, okay, I'm thinking of the roulette table where that ball has to land in a specific space.
Oh, well, for that one, it would have to. But I just mean, like, the other one where you just roll the dice on the table. If one of the dice landed off the table, they would still...
Damn, we're playing crabs? What is going on here?
I don't know what it's called.
Yeah,
like,
no,
you
that's
just see it in movies where they're like... and then just roll the dice.
I wonder what they're playing in those games now that you bring that up, because
they never specify, because they're always trying to catch somebody in those games. Like the bad guy, they're like, oh, he's sitting at the table.
He's at the table, and then he's just holding the gun.
He's like, get ready, boys.
Yeah, and then it becomes some shootout. That's usually how they display.
And then the Wow Wow Wubsy team pulls up.
We're ready for the case. And then they're like, why is that dude jumping on his tail?
And he just starts singing, wow, wow, whoopsie, 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 wow, wow.
This is at a Vegas casino where you just have a bunch of thugs. They're like, what is this?
And then they start dancing to it. Wow, wow, whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsie.
That reminds me of like how SpongeBob, they were watching the SpongeBob movie and they were like all crying and the popcorn was getting thrown around.
Yeah.
That is definitely identical to that. They do depict Vegas like that for some reason, though. They always have it where it's an action-packed film.
Yeah.
You almost never see Vegas where it's like calm and people are doing meth on the streets.
Vegas is not calm. There's people doing drugs on the street. There's people like stealing money from casinos. There's people smoking in casinos because that's still allowed.
Yeah, that is still allowed. Yeah. It's specific bars too. That's what I've noticed. We went to a place in North Dakota. We actually went bar hopping. Not something that I do.
I know. I was gonna say it doesn't seem like you're seen, but all right.
Yeah. Well, that was my thing. I've been doing a lot of things that like I just want to understand. I've done bar hopping before, but it's not, again, drinking, not my forte. But it was there, and I didn't eat that much either. Like throughout the trip, I feel like I didn't eat enough. Or even work out enough. Although there was some running and I did work out. I did do yoga. Ariel showed me yoga and I never had, like, my lower back and my whole body felt so, like, gifted. Like, it felt stretched entirely because of how we did it. It was like 1.5 hours of yoga. And it was certain positions, and it wasn't too bad overall. There were some positions that were harder to hold, but it's because balance. I don't have the best, but it's gotten better. Like, I might be able to ride a skateboard now because couldn't previously. But I didn't skateboard when I was there. I just noticed that my balance on how we were holding poses, I'm like, okay, I'm getting better about my placement. But, yeah, so I got to North Dakota, and she was actually in... I'm going to forget the name right now of this place. Basically, it's like a children's museum where they have like a bunch of different activities. And I never actually went in there. We tried to plan on doing it, but we did other things. But it was the one place where we were at, and it was closing at that time because I got there around 5 and that's when they closed. But she was describing it. It was very cool because it's basically like it's like a discovery place of so many different activities. Like if you wanted to learn about engineering, space, like your STEM related programs, but they had applicable like games that kids could do and activities there. That's how she described it. It was very cool. But we didn't go in there, but we did have a beautiful view of the river that runs right through there. I forgot which one it is, but they were at the top of the hill is where like the school is at. Like, it's all, like, kind of one area, but it's a bunch of different buildings. like amongst the different hills. And it's a Catholic school. It's a Catholic private school. So it was even more interesting because of that. Because like the etiquette there was very specific, but also the people, they were open to an extent, I will say. Like some of them I think were like, they're unsure because, I mean, your beliefs, you try to follow by the book, but you have people who are at least willing to share like the information about the gospel and God and all of that. So it was an interesting perspective because I know some of the stories, but I don't know all of the stories about the religion, the Catholic religion, but I learned quite a bit when I was there. I mean, there's so many different highlights of being at that school, and then the people that I met. Like the people that she has around her are like the reflection of how she is as a person. She's a very open person, and she shows that with the people that she's around, because these people have different backgrounds, but they all come together to like be in a community. And it's a very beautiful thing because some of the people's stories were like, it was just so, it was beautiful to like hear them and see how open they were as individuals, like, and be able to communicate like that. Like that's what we're trying to do for the podcast, but those are the people that she has around her. And it was very neat just talking to each one of them, because there was Nicole is her roommate. Well, I should say one of them. Mary was another one. And those were the ones that I saw the most. There were other roommates. I believe I've seen all of them. Monica was one of them. She had been with her boyfriend during that time since it was spring break, but I met her as well. Yeah, and we got a chat, but then I met people that were outside of that, like Jonathan, who also went to that school, and Caleb, who didn't go to that school, but they actually had met when she like first got to North Dakota, which was crazy. They met at it's where he worked. I want to say Zoomies? I could be wrong about that, but it was a shoe store.
What is Zoomies?
It's a shoe store. It's here. We have it here.
Zoomies, are you sure?
Yes, we can look this one up.
Sounds like when a dog has zoomies.
Yeah, literally I looked it up immediately. Zoomies.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I thought you were meaning zoomies like ZOO.
Oh yeah. I feel like that would be like a kid's shoe, like a maybe a baby shoe to put on the zoomies and they'd light up, kind of like Skechers. That's what I would
Okay,
think.
so you just ripped off their brand.
Well, I said kind of like Skechers. Skechers ripped off the first person who put LED lights on their shoes. Thank you.
And who was it?
It was John Franklin V, back in 1873. I don't even know if we had electricity at that time. They're going to probably get me on that. They're like, how do you not know when the light bulb was invented? I'm like, I don't have all the information in the world. Please enlighten me. Well, now they're trying
to take your
What is this? Now they're trying to give a QR code? We're giving people way too much information. Why did they come up on that? But yeah, that was kind of the beginning of that. And I mean, we got to meet like the local people too. That same day we went to a health store. It reminded me a lot of Natural Grocers, which they have one up there too. But I got to meet the person that was there. She was talking about concerts and such, where she was going to with her and her boyfriend. And I'm not sure what she's building into. I'd kind of forgotten, but she was very talkative. Her and Ariel were having a lot of different conversations. I was kind of observing all of it. And yeah, the other thing I noticed is when I first pulled into the city, I was like, whoa, because you come over this hill when you see the city, and it was very different from most cities that I've pulled up into. It was very beautiful, and it was a lot larger than I expected, a lot larger than their largest city in the state too, which I was surprised. Their largest city is Fargo, and that's on the east side of the state, and I was like, wow, this wasn't like what I imagined when I came to where they were staying at. But yeah, the area was absolutely gorgeous. And the activities that we did they were not typical. Let's just say, where I got this shirt from. I was cleaning with the sisters. So they have like a little sisterhood, and I guess disclosure. Let's just say I was on some substance at that time, and we had walked into there, and I think it was about like it was like 2 o'clock, but Ariel had ran by a gentleman named Timothy, and he's from Ghana. His family's from Ghana, so he's pretty limited on English, but he definitely understands a lot of it. And he was the one who kind of guided us to this spot to go help out the sisters. And it was very interesting because it's like I was vacuuming. That's what I was doing. We were helping them clean the place. And we were there for a couple hours, and we got to meet a bunch of people. And I got a nickname being there because she forgot my name, one of the older sisters. She was like, Sebastian?
I mean, she got the S right, but nothing else.
And I just responded to her. I was just like, yeah, what's up? Or I didn't say that because the dialect there, I would not be saying that.
I was like, you said that to a sister?
Yeah, you said that to a sister? Yeah. But I basically helped him out. We all did. Jonathan eventually went to the bathroom and was there for a while. We didn't even know where he went for a little bit, but we all came back together at the very end, and then, yeah, so we were there for a few hours. And then we saw the business side of the school where the theater was, where they were going to be having a movie going on that Saturday. We didn't go to that. We did other things, but there was a lot of activities and a lot of events that they had. There was a rock climbing wall that we went to, I believe, the first day. Nicole ended up playing volleyball, and then Ariel climbed the wall. I climbed it a little bit, but we still know the fingers. When you're doing rock wall climbing, you need those.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit. I did what I could. I didn't want to put too much pressure on them, but I still put some more pressure on them. And yeah, it was very cool. I mean, there's so much that I've learned from that part of the trip as well, too, just with the people that were there. And I mean, I now have created a lot of connections in an area that's so far away from here. And it's its own little community. And what's cool is all of them had told Ariel, too, that like they were like glad to have met me. I was like, wow.
They're glad they met Sebastian, not Spencer.
Yeah, the sisters were glad they met Sebastian. They don't know who Spencer is, though.
Be asking them about it. They're like, who? We only know Sebastian.
I wonder if they will actually, like, if I came back there, if they'd remember, but they probably remember because that name, Sebastian.
Or they'll forget that one too, just like they forgot your actual name.
Yeah, I still think they would probably remember me from there because I told them like where I was at, but I feel like they would have to remember me.
Now you have to make annual visits to the sisters.
Potentially. I would definitely go back there again. It's definitely a nice place. You could, not with Instacart, you could not do Instacart there. At least in the matter that I do here with how much that I make, it wouldn't be the same comparability, but you could still get a few orders for sure. But in terms of if you wanted to do the oil or anything in the energy field, Caleb definitely enlightened me on that. They pay you a lot. They'll pay you $1,500 to stay in a city, just to live there. Kind of like how Alaska pays you to live in Alaska.
Yeah.
They do that in that city, and you just have to work in one of those industries, basically. You may just live in the city, but I think it's because there's so much work needed for like oil up there. Oil, nuclear energy they're getting into. And I mean, they pay like top dollar too. But what's interesting is the comparability of like price is very similar there. Like if you were to like buy something at the grocery store, it's pretty similar to what it is here. Same with gas. The crazy part about going up there though is I'm like, why is my fuel efficiency so bad now? Like I was getting like 28 miles a gallon instead of the 40. I was like, is something wrong with my car? No, it's because my car is a hybrid. So the battery is cold. So it doesn't produce the same amount of energy. And I was like, oh, well, I'll have to keep that in mind like as I'm driving. Because as you know, I can't see my dash either. So I don't know necessarily how much fuel I have. So I had to go off of like when I filled up, I would take a screenshot of my Google Maps thing and then send it to the FBI so they can come raid my
Wait,
house.
so you didn't even know how much fuel you had left in your car? You're like, YOLO.
Well, I base it off of what my miles per gallon is, and then I just do some multiplication.
That's not safe.
So 28 miles a gallon times...
How did you pass inspection with that car?
Are you kidding me? You don't need the dash to light up to see that, because when you plug in the OBD to actually read the car, it will show you how fast you're going. It will show you everything you need. So it will pass.
Couldn't be me.
Now, I wonder if that would be like safety hazard. I know technically on the road, if you can't see your odometer, you could get pulled over.
That's not technically. You should always be able to see it.
It's technically driving. Because they're probably not going to ask about that. When they pull you over, they're not going to look at your dash and be like, oh, it's not on.
Well, they can see when they walk up to your car. They're like, did you turn the car off, sir?
And then I'll be like, of course I did, Your Majesty.
And then they'd be like, what? First of all, don't call me Your Majesty. It's officer.
Okay, I'm going to punch you.
Sir, step out of the car.
Yeah, you wish in your dreams, Your Majesty. Just dig the hole as soon as he comes up.
And then I get a call. They're like, there's an inmate in jail right now that is trying to call you. Would you like to pick up? And I'll be like, yes, I'll accept the charges.
And then here's what I say on the other line. Hey, you got any of those spaghetti?
Oh, must be wrong number.
Whoa. Do you have cantaloupe?
And then you're stuck there all by yourself, and they took your car to the impound, and now...
Why? Whoa, the impound?
And then they crushed it because they needed the scrap metal.
Damn. I feel like they would do that to somebody. They literally take people's land, so... But that's actually law. I remember learning about that in school, where they can take your land if they're going to use it for like city purposes and stuff, and that's literally written into the law.
There was actually somebody one time, I don't know where it was at, but they refused to give their home up because the government was trying to build a highway and they refused. So they built the highway around the home, and the home was just sitting in the middle of the highway.
You mentioned this, I think, in an earlier podcast, actually.
I don't think I've mentioned
either
this
that or we've definitely
probably had this conversation. Yeah.
Because I remember you talking about that specifically.
So you don't have to give it up. You can just refuse, and then they'll just build a highway around you.
Yeah. Great.
Oh no, somebody ran into my house with their car.
See, but they would have to go to court with all of that too.
Yeah.
That's the downside to it, because they'll keep trying to take it from you, and eventually they will. And they did, because they built it around him.
They didn't take his home though.
Yeah, but they know when he dies it's going to be taken. That's always the thing.
He said, nope, I had a baby. That baby's taking over my house now.
Okay, how old is the kid?
Well, by the time he dies, he'll be old enough.
How do you know that? Who is this? Is this a specific example? It's like Bill down the street.
No, but I'm just saying, if you really so badly don't want the government to take it, you just keep passing it down to people. So that way when you die, the house lives on.
It's true. It's just I know there's stories of like forcibly taking stuff, or what they did back in the day. I remember reading a lot of books about this, or at least it was a part of the fictional book. It was crazy, where they would literally, they would have people like hired to come like burn down your house. That was a thing, because if they wanted something, if you want something to get done, you can get it done. It's just not going to be done in a very moral way. So they just hired a hitman?
Yeah. They're like, yeah, go burn their house down and make sure they're in it.
Well, they already do that in many different ways. Like how people talk about government's the problem. Well, yeah, but then the government just blames the people that they have as the shield for them, which is, what are those people called? Oh, why am I forgetting their name right now? That's not even... They're going to get me with it.
Did you hear about the government trying to sign into law to ban TikTok?
Yeah, that one passed in the House, actually.
It hasn't passed in the Senate yet.
Yeah, and that's...
But the president did say that he will sign off on it if it passes through the Senate.
What? They're actually going to do that.
Well, it passed through the House faster than any bill has ever been passed.
That makes sense, though, because the House is mainly Republicans.
But the Senate said, they're like, we're going to take our usual time that we do with bills. Like, this isn't going to get expedited. So, no word yet on how long they're going to take.
That's going to be an interesting decision, because I know that the Senate's made up of Democrats. They're the majority, and the majority of the House is Republicans. So it made sense why it passed so fast in the Republicans.
There are so many other issues here in America, and they're like, TikTok. That's what we can all agree on.
Okay, but I'm actually with them on it. I don't use TikTok, and we've already talked about this before. We use it as like a platform, but I know who it's going to affect the most. Women. They use TikTok way more than men.
It's going to affect content creators that are getting paid by that app.
That's also true.
Like,
well, women specifically, because they spend a lot of their time on that, right? Because whenever they get off work or they're not working, that's typically the app they're using.
I mean, I feel like it's a lot of people.
Instagram, Snapchat, but they use TikTok mostly.
Is used the most.
Because it's the largest one now. Whereas, if we were talking about this like a few years ago, I would say Instagram, because Instagram was very big.
Well, a lot of people don't like Meta, and a lot of people have said that TikTok actually, since it's not like an American company, it's actually Singapore. They actually pay their content creators a lot more than Instagram does. Or Meta, since I know Instagram and Facebook are
because a lot of their money is getting shoveled into the metaverse. That's why.
Yeah, and so people are like, I don't want to switch over to Instagram or Meta.
And it's also not the same. You don't get the same feel to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same with like how you tried to create something similar to Snapchat, but you can't. You can borrow some of their things, but you can't make it the same way as Snapchat. Also because they probably have what do they have? Like patents and stuff on specific ways of doing things?
Well, I mean, technically, most apps can do what Snapchat does. Like when Instagram introduced their stories.
Yeah.
That was basically all Snapchat was. And Facebook did the same thing. So, I mean, you kind of get...
But it's not the same, though.
I mean, all the apps are different, but they're all kind of the same. Like, you can do the same thing on all the apps. You just get, like, different type of content based on who is on there. Like, Facebook is typically, like, your older people. And then Instagram, I feel like it ranges. I feel like you still have your younger people, but you have, like...
Your older artists. That's what I've noticed with Instagram. It's like an art with... that part of the population. I would probably say like middle, yeah, not like older people. They probably are. Yeah, they don't.
It's
not typically there. I mean, that's the same with TikTok. That's younger.
Yeah,
mostly younger. I would also say with that whole like TikTok thing getting passed as well too, like how that will affect the other companies as well. With certain like types of like censorship and stuff, because that's always been a large thing of probably why they're banning TikTok. There's multiple reasons, but it's interesting that you said Singapore is where it's from.
Well, the U.S. government's excuse is like they'll let TikTok keep being a thing here in the U.S. if TikTok sells it to like a U.S. company to take over. Because they think that they're stealing our data.
Information.
But it's like, so are y'all. We know you're doing that with Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. It's them having the control over that.
Yeah, well, and that's also the thing people are talking about. They're like on TikTok, people can freely talk about whatever because it's not a U.S. company. The U.S. isn't censoring the things that are on the app.
People are going to talk about whatever, whenever.
Well, no, but like... there are certain things that like can get censored through like Instagram or Facebook that like the US government doesn't want people to see. And it's a lot easier for them to do that because they're US companies versus with TikTok, it's not a US company. Therefore, they make the decisions on like who sees what.
Yeah.
Therefore, videos aren't taken down as often. I mean, I'm sure they probably still take videos down based off of what they
do.
Want people
they
to
also
see.
Have banned people as well too.
Yeah, but I think that's why like people in the U.S. tend to like it more because we're actually like a lot of people use it as their news, especially for things going on like in the world or even in the U.S. Like that's how we've heard about like the presidential elections or any bills that they decided to pass. Like, that's how I get my information.
Yeah,
is hearing
yeah.
it through there.
Well, it would disrupt that large community that's over there
Well,
too.
and then people don't know what they're supposed to know. And obviously it's probably what the government wants.
I wouldn't say that, because you could use any platform to find information. It's just the information that you receive is always going to be different because it's targeted to you based off of their algorithm that you also kind of create too. Because it's where you stop at. And I mean, that's simple. You notice that on Facebook is like, if you stop on something for a certain amount of time, that gets taken into the algorithm and you end up seeing that more. Even when you're talking, that's what happens too. Does that happen with TikTok? Where you're talking about something and you end up seeing a video related to it?
I don't think I've noticed that on TikTok.
But you also see so much on TikTok, so it's kind of hard to see that too.
Yeah, but I feel like I remember it because I see stuff on Instagram or Facebook that I'm like, some things I don't even talk about. I just think about them and they'd be popping up and I'm like, how did this happen? Are you reading my mind?
Are you participating in Elon Musk's chip program?
How did you know? They're paying me $1 million.
They're going to get that, and then they're going to be like, yep, she's a droid.
She got out. We got to get her. Oh no, she's malfunctioning. She's telling everybody
Bob,
everything.
secure the front door.
But I don't know. I find it baffling that there's so many issues going on here that they haven't been able to decide on. And the one thing that they're like, oh yeah, we can all agree. No more TikTok. No more King Toad defeating 1,000 Bowsers.
What? What is that?
I have to show you a video, but on TikTok, they do these Mario Kart videos where it's like, you have like King Toad and he's battling like 1,000,000 Bowsers. And like you just get to see at the end like who wins. Is it King Toad or the Bowsers?
Wow.
But I'm like, that's what they're so pressed about is these stupid videos of people just dancing on there. Like they're just like, yeah, no, we can't have that, guys.
What I find interesting is I think I would be on the other side actually on this one. I think that they should continue to ban TikTok. And the reason why, with the affiliations, it is true another country getting our information, not necessarily good, especially China, which is actually the creator. The person who created TikTok is from China. And it is CCP regulated, and the CCP owns a portion of it, if not most of it. Because what the CCP does is they'll kick you down your door and be like, yeah, we're taking over your company. You can't do anything about it. That is common for them to do that. And that's because of their leadership roles and how they go about it. And it's not necessarily like that's wrong specifically to do because there's no justice in that. But at the same time, that's how they run their operations. And that's what I would not want is that it's also a mind game is all of these different applications because you get glued into that reality, which is literally what the metaverse is creating, which is why I don't like them either, is because they're warping you into just consuming and taking you. That's the point of social media is you're consuming it. They want your attention, which is so valuable because there's so much outside of that. Hence the trip that I went on. There's so much that was taken in from that trip where I'm like, nothing on media will bring that to you because it's your experience. It's your story. It's not something that's from there. Now, could you display it on these platforms? Yes, I could have displayed it on these platforms, which I did. Follow me on Snapchat. On Snapchat, I did have stories, like it was a damn blizzard in Denver, but it's not going to be good if another country has that type of control over us. Because when you have technology over people, well, it can be smarter because it's not emotionally deciding stuff. It's just doing what was requested. So if they're like, take over the minds of these people, aye, aye, Captain. And that's their goal. That is literally social media's goal, is to take more money and more attention from you, which ultimately leads to more power. And I've heard this TikTok thing even when it first started. Because I remember when they first were talking about this bill, This was back like last year.
Yeah,
When I
but
was
it
listening
never,
to it.
nothing ever happened to it. It never like became anything. And
I
then
think it
now,
died somewhere because they had to like restructure it.
Yeah.
Because you have to get it correct where everybody can agree on it, but also you have to get the smaller details, like what if this happens? What if this happens? So it has to be talked about. But yeah, I don't agree with the. I do agree with the TikTok thing though, that they should have a ban on that because it does consume a lot of people's time here, and I think it could be used in a different way. But again, you can make the same argument about the other applications.
That's what I'm saying.
I just don't like how TikTok specifically is very small intervals of stuff because that messes with your memory. I can't watch it.
Instagram does the same thing though. They
True.
all do the same
with
thing.
the stories, right? I understand that, but it's just that was what they were founded upon. They were founded upon all of these small little videos doing that.
So was Snapchat.
So is YouTube. So is Facebook. Right?
YouTube was longer videos.
No, it's still shorts. They do shorts, which we do
Well,
shorts.
now, but I mean, when YouTube first started, it was just uploading videos.
It was
didn't have
anything.
shorts.
No, it was anything though. So it could be small videos, but yes, TikTok is specifically that. It's
So was
specifically
Snapchat
small
when it started.
videos.
Snapchat now you can do longer videos, but when it started, it was just short videos. Like you couldn't go beyond, I think, like 10 seconds or something like that
Yeah.
between like your story. You'd have to like start, a new story. All the companies are doing the same thing. They just don't like that it's not based in the US.
Yeah, which I feel like I've had more information on this before, but it's been so long since I've looked into that. I just saw that story come up. I've kind of been away from the news for a while.
They act like a new app is not going to be created. Like,
Yeah.
sure, you can just get rid of one or ban it, but you act like TikTok won't find a way around it. If they want people, if they want the world to be on TikTok, they're going to find a way to make it happen.
But then you're going to get the people who go directly against that too. So you got the double-sided thing where it could just be shut down like that.
I mean, I don't think they can shut them down. I mean,
They have banned stuff off the store before. They've done this with apps before.
yeah, but they would only be doing that here in the U.S. Like, no other country is talking about banning TikTok. It's just the U.S. So
currently.
Currently, yeah. Like,
Well, I don't know. There's no other countries like period?
there's other countries that are like, we're praying for you, U.S. because the U.S. citizens aren't going to have access to TikTok. Like, there's people in Britain like, good luck, y'all. We'll be here.
Well, I mean, Britain though, that's a whole different like category of things. Britain would not ban it because they don't work as much. And that's like a very bold statement to make. I'm saying British people don't work. Literally, Europe's work weeks, they would rather be at home than go to work.
Same.
This is a very common thing. Ma'am, you still work and you work.
Yeah, because I have to.
No. It's the same with them too. They have to as well to provide.
But they don't have to as much because their government is like, yeah, well, we don't want you to work that much.
Yes,
They give them more sick time.
yes and no, yeah. There's certain things that work for that, but you could do the same thing here.
And then you'd be living on the street.
No, you would not. You just have to know how to spend money wisely. I think we talked about this. It's not about how much you make, it's about what you do with what you make.
Yeah, but like the cost of living is extremely high right now.
Oh, for us, Argentina has the worst inflation out of any country. They were in like the 200+% inflation, and it's the smaller third world countries. No, they've had it worse. I've listened to a lot of stories. There's a guy on YouTube that I listen to that has talked about these. He's talked about Russia's inflation, Argentina's, Venezuela's, all of these different countries. I wouldn't consider Russia necessarily third world at all because they have a lot of, I think they're the highest producing, like our internet. Our internet is actually based from their region, if you didn't know that. Like most of our connection of networking is from Russia.
Okay, but just because somebody else has it worse doesn't mean that we don't have it bad either.
That's exactly, but
our prices are higher than they've been in years and years and years.
Yes, but that's also a part of how we move forward with stuff too. That's just inflation.
Yeah, but our wages aren't going up. We're not getting paid anymore.
Yeah, they are. Just not the sector that you're in. That's the thing. Like, wages are going up, just not in the sector. Also not in the state either. Because, like, for instance, what I do, Instacart, in California, they actually pay you hourly too, on top of that. So you make absolute bank. But you have to pay as well too, because gas over there is high. Like in Oregon, their gas is at 4. We're at 3. So each region's kind of different for what it is, but they also have opportunities of jobs in certain regions. That's where people have to be able to move out of the field that they're in. And most people don't want to do that because then you lose that sense of security. Whereas, yes, in Britain, you have more security. That's why it makes that easier to do. But it's not that you can't do that in the US. I mean, we literally make money from TikTok, from YouTube, from these things, from being influencers. You ask a kid today, that's what they will want to be. They don't want to be an astronaut. Oh my gosh.
An astronaut.
Astronaut. Yeah, I'll explain what that is. Basically, instead of going to space, you're going to the center of the earth.
You're going the opposite direction.
Exactly. You're going into the seas. Ooh. And then you're going into the crust, and not the pizza crust from Papa John's, but you're going into the crust, into the mantle, into the core, and in your earth.
Oh, then you just burn. The closer you get to the core, the hotter it gets.
Not if you're hotter than Bibble Nation. I pointed over there, but I actually moved Bibble over here.
You're so used to Bibble being over here.
Yeah, he's usually the second one over there, but now it's Sydney. I said Sydney. Cindy. Yeah, this illness definitely got me. It was literally the day I left. The day I left Oregon.
Yeah, but you had like a 2-day drive back.
3-day drive, man.
My bad.
Yeah, because I had to go in blocks. Because I made it to Boise, I made it to Denver, I made it to Dallas, and then I came back here. So yeah, it was a day and 8 hours, so it had to be cut up in 3 sections. I could have done 2, but that would have been like 16 hours? Yeah.
You're used to driving anyways.
Yeah, I love driving. That's why, and it's so fast. Like 8-hour trips are like nothing to me now.
Does your booty hurt though from sitting on it all day?
Actually, not really. I mean, I can feel it like right here. So when my car doesn't turn on, I can't put it in cruise. So I have to stay on my foot. So my knee ends up like feeling it. I'm like, ooh. But once I get out of the car, it gets stretched enough to the point where it's fine. So
he got destroyed out there?
Slightly. One thing that I was very thankful for was my car. I only had the check engine light come on once, and I ran out of gas once. But remember, I carry a gas can.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah.
Speaking of cars, guess who finally got their car back?
I saw that. Because yesterday I was like, I wonder, she has to have it back by now. And then I didn't see it here, so I'm like, oh no, it got sent to the impound and crushed.
No, for those of you guys that have seen the other podcast, my car got broken in and stolen, and they ripped out the ignition. So now I have the full story about what happened.
Oh, snap.
So when I got my car back, he was like, yeah, you're on E. I was like, excuse me? And he was like, yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have any like gas cans.
They ran out of fuel? Oh my God.
Normally it'll tell me how many miles I have left. They were just dashes. It was on E. And I was like, he was like, gas station's not too far from here. He was like, call me if you need me.
What?
Thanks. So I was like terrified. It was 0.9 miles from the place I picked it up from to go and get gas. And I was like terrified the whole time. I'm like, I'm going to run out of gas. So my thing, piecing it together, person who stole my car obviously didn't want to go to a gas station because they could be caught on camera. They could just trace back the transaction, find out who stole my car. So they were like, oh, we're on E. Well, if I can't have the car, nobody can. So they parked it somewhere, ripped out the ignition, and then just walked off.
I feel like they had to have ripped the ignition when they started it, or there would have been no way of starting the car.
But then...
Because why would they rip it out afterwards? That would make no sense. I don't see the logic.
But then why would they steal the car if they knew they wouldn't be able to start it again?
Well, considering where it ended up, I think that they were pretty stupid. And the fact that they let it run out of gas. They probably didn't even realize that either. Yeah.
I don't even remember how much gas I had left in it before it got stolen, because, you know, it's not something I'm just like, oh, I've had this much left, and then I'm like...
I had this many miles on my car. Why do I have 900 more?
But yeah, so I'm assuming that person ran out of gas, and then I'm assuming that's when they were just like dumping the car and left. Because that was the most money I've ever spent on gas since it was on E. Spent like $45 on gas.
Damn.
And I normally only spend like 20.
Oh, you usually fill it up halfway then.
No.
Yeah, because 45, 20, that's about halfway.
I fill it up all the way. I fill it to full.
No, what I mean is whenever you're filling up for gas, if it's $20 and 45 is at dead E, that means you're always filling up when you have half a tank left or around that.
I like to get it pretty low, and then I'm like, oop, need to get gas.
Wait, then
like today I had 41 miles left before I needed to go and get gas, and
how much did you pay?
Well, at this gas station over here, paid 30, I think.
Okay.
It just depends on gas prices, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that fluctuates too. But it's not like too much of a difference unless we're talking about COVID levels versus after COVID, because, I mean, $1 a gallon, I mean, that was filling stuff up like crazy.
Yeah, no. When you're at like $5 a gallon, you're like, well, I guess we're getting 1 gallon today.
They weren't even the worst. California at 10, Jesus, that was insane.
I guess I'm walking today.
But I think, like, back on that topic of like inflation, that's always going to happen. Like,
until the market crashes.
But other people, like, they have it worse, right? And we still have it bad. It's not to get that away from that. It's just a lot more people feel it in that spot than what we do. Because people can afford it and they will dish out money, obviously, because that's why the prices kept going up. The reason why they would go back down is if people weren't using it as much, right? Because supply and demand, basic levels of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's other factors too, like whatever oil deals are happening in the Middle East, that also affects the price. And then the oil that we are producing, because we're the largest exporter and importer of oil, which is crazy, but true. And it depends on where we send the oil. Like, for instance, our crude oil that we have, like our leftover shit, we always send that to China. Like, always send that to China. I think we have an agreement on that, actually. And it's because we don't want to use it. Like, I guess converting it is like too much for us. It's not necessarily profitable. So selling it to somebody else is. And they'll have people who have cheap labor to do it. I mean, that's why, like, a lot of the outsourcing for certain things. Why call centers talk about India? India has the largest population. In 2022, they surpassed China. So they have the largest population in the world of a country, which is wild. But that's why they get outsourced for telecommunications stuff. And that's why China is for materials. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you have that many people working and that much production happening. And although it's cheap for them, they're also getting a lot as well, too, to be able to step up and do something about that. I mean, a part of that would also be the BRICS Alliance, if you've ever heard of that. The BRICS Alliance is the oil alliance with Brazil, and there's a bunch of different countries, but it involves like 80% of the oil industry is now under BRICS. We are not under BRICS. I don't even think we're allowed to join BRICS if we wanted to. So that power movement and control, I think that's where TikTok becomes a factor in this, because it's like, do we want to lose power through media as well too? Is that going to be smart for us? Probably not. And I see why they would do that then, as like the counteractive portion of it. Like, people will be upset, but it was the same thing with Netflix. Whenever Netflix is like, oh yeah, you have to have different accounts now. You can only have so many.
That's different though. That's not like they're banning Netflix. It was like, oh, you just have to, everybody's paying for their own account now. It was just a money thing. They wanted money or more money.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because people are switching to other things because everybody's moving to streaming. I mean, you got like Paramount, Hulu.
And it's because it's very used. I mean, we are known to be the entertainment country when it comes to stuff. That's what we focus a lot of our money on. Like, our celebrities are from movies, from TV shows. I mean, of course, we have our athletes too, but that's like every country. They have their athletes as well, but that's also televised. And we have specific sports. Like, we're starting to introduce football into Europe. I felt like it was going to stop that timer for some reason for this screen record thing. But they have that in other countries where they're going to start to do football. Like, we're introducing that to Germany. So when the foreign exchange student Lutz, when he was over here and I met with him, he was talking about how if a specific like country got a NFL team, that it probably wouldn't be as popular. And the reason why is because having that team, they wouldn't necessarily want to root for that. They would and they wouldn't. It just wouldn't be the same as if they come to play there, like different teams come to play there once a week. Because that's what they do in the NFL. I don't know when they started that, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I haven't watched football a lot, except for this last year because I did fantasy football. I realized, I'm like, whoa, they're playing in Germany? Or they're playing in Britain? They're playing throughout Europe. And he was talking about their ticket prices being insane. Like, for an average seat was like $3,000.
Yeah, but they're big sports fans. But I heard someone saying, like, that football is only, like, it's only really big in America. Like, it's not really big anywhere else. Like, our football, not their football. Because their football is our soccer.
Yeah.
But yeah, somebody was saying, like, yeah, football is only big in America.
It is. Like, that's what we are known for, like, here. And that is, like, our largest grossing sport, I believe, too. But other people are like, what is this? But at the same time, they're becoming more adaptive to it. They like seeing it, but yeah, like, being a part of their culture, I don't know if they would make that next step or if that would be a smart move to do.
Because I feel like soccer is bigger over there, or I guess their football.
Soccer is huge in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
That's one of the, like, big sports, I believe, because every country has a soccer team. I believe every country, actually.
Probably. Well, because don't they have the Olympics that has all the countries that come together to compete? Also, I feel like tennis is kind of big.
Yeah, that one also is, because they have, like, the Wimbledons. They play in Australia, they play in the US, they play in Europe. I believe they have to play in China. In every country. Why does it say in every state? What in the world? That is not even the question I asked. How many countries have a soccer team? Oh, 211 men's national football teams affiliated with FIFA. How many countries are there, though? Oops. 195?
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's 195.
How many countries are there in the world?
195 is what it's saying from BBC Science Focus magazine. What? What? See, then what is this?
So here's the answer. There are 195 countries in the world. Yeah.
That's weird, but somehow there's 211. Now, there's specific ones. I think when I had that question come up right here, they noticed that it's not that. That is so weird. Oh, it's also who is actually recognized as countries, which is a very interesting thing because
FIFA recognizes 211.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because Taiwan was not recognized as a country for a long while, like during their little war with China, like back in the day. That was, they would not recognize them as a country. I don't think the US would either. It took them a little bit to be like, okay, they are one, and other countries actually adopting that. Because
Didn't the
it's
US
weird.
have a whole fight about who was a state and who wasn't? And now they're out here being like, yeah, you're not a country.
Yeah, I mean, no, all countries do this too. Like when the Soviet Union was around, they not everybody necessarily recognized them as an entire union because over time they were taking over areas, and that's up for the country to decide, which is kind of weird. Like you just don't recognize these people because it's like they're not big enough, I guess, or whatever circumstance that they have for them, or we don't like them.
Who cares what other people think?
Yeah.
I feel like we're a country in our eyes. That's like Texas. Doesn't Texas like consider itself its own country? Or wants to be its own country?
Well, in a way it can, but it also can't because we got enticed by law that we are a country and we are not allowed to leave. Because I remember when Texas was trying to step out of being that, and all those states that stood up for Texas too, we had like half the country step up.
That was like, yeah, they're their own country.
No, it wasn't for that specifically. It was over. I feel like I should know this too, and now they're going to be upset. But it's a very known one too. I don't know why I forgot this information. I guess it's just all of coming back and taking in so much information. But beforehand, I would have probably been able to answer this. I'll probably have to look this one up too. I was looking at what this was. I feel like I was the ad clicker right here.
The 5 stupidest things Americans overspend on. Hint, coffee is not one of them.
Online shopping?
I believe
that's
that.
So, what? But that's like too many things. That's saying all of the things
But that's
that you
because
spend.
people don't like to go out and shop. Like, they'd rather do it online and get it
Well, it's
delivered to them.
easier. I mean, I think of Instacart on the other end. It's easy to be like, ooh, I want to add that to my house instead of shopping and being like, ooh, I don't know about that. And then all the people are blah, 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 walking through the store, and then the kids coming over and biting your pant like, ah.
Well, that's also why people don't go. I feel like people are, like, more anxious or don't want to be so close to other people. And they're like, yeah, it's just safer if I do this online.
And then Amazon's actually looking at you through the camera while you're shopping, but you never knew.
Hey, do you think I should buy that blender?
And then they answer back by
They send you a
winking.
chat message. Yeah.
Looks pretty rad, bro. Oh, the thing that I was looking up, they had stood for
Is Texas, or who stood up for Texas being a country?
No, well, why? I think it's why. Was
Because-
Texas why was Texas
Trying to become a country?
no it's weird
Why
trying to-
did people stand up for Texas
Yeah.
becoming a country?
Yeah. Stand up for Texas. Oh yeah, it was literally the I stand for Texas. I remember seeing this.
Oh my
briefly.
gosh, they have their own slogan.
Yeah.
Slogan.
Okay, I thought that was actually the word because that's just how it be.
Slogan, sorry.
Oh, I'm such an idiot. It's the border crisis that's still going on. That's what it was.
Wait, they wanted Texas to be its own country because the border?
So this was it. A coalition of 25 Republican governors released a joint statement on January 25th, 2024 in support of Abbott's efforts to exercise what he declares is Texas' constitutional right to self-defense. And it's because of the immigration stuff that was going on. And we have the right to protect ourselves, but they were going to try to send in, I believe, the National Guard to basically not have us do that. Actually, they already did on the border, they had. But then all of the states started standing up. Not all, but most of them started standing up. It said 25, which I think the number was higher than 25. It was over half by a little bit. But there are certain states that aren't going to agree with Texas. California, New York, Oregon, Washington. Those are the 4 that I know for sure would never agree with Texas, at least in today. Now, over time, it could change, but like it has in the past, there's some states that were red, some states that were blue, but Texas, yeah, they're a red state. And again, how they normally vote and why it stays so long and it doesn't pass is because they're going to be at odds with one another. They're like, we're not going to give you the power grab. And then the other side's like, we're not going to give you the power grab. And that's why we have these crazy things that happen where it's like, why did they pass that? Next president comes in, just wipes it out of the way. Perfect example, Obamacare. That got wiped out immediately once Trump came into office. Obamacare was actually somewhat useful, I will say. Based off of some of the people that I talked, no, I don't agree with healthcare, period. I'm not going to pay for healthcare. And that's why I didn't like about with Obamacare is that it was required. What I did like is the fact that they could provide healthcare to people. That's one thing that I like about Canada is that there is free healthcare, but it is limited. I have seen videos of them talking about certain things that were, we have limitations to it.
Isn't that the same thing in Britain? They have free healthcare?
Yeah, I believe so. That would make sense because Canada is still a part of them because they didn't want to have their own independence. And that's not an attack on Canada.
Or they just didn't want to fight about it like the U.S. wants to.
Yeah. There's that, but also Canada just doesn't want to, they didn't want to leave the Queen in how they operate and work, which, thinking of their geography, I guess it kind of makes sense because their environment is so much harsher than ours. Theirs is just cold because they're the northern region. So the type of work that they have is different, but it's right. I also feel like there wasn't enough people. No, they could have, because if they stood with the U.S. during that time, they could have also done that. Just like how Mexico got their independence from them.
I just feel like Canada normally doesn't like join in on wars. Like they're normally the peace country. Like you don't really hear them trying to start stuff with other people.
That's why it's easy to invade them.
You got the FBI trying to show up at our house now.
No.
You're talking about invading countries.
This has actually happened in the past where the U.S. tried to do that, but we ended up making, I believe it's the 50th parallel? No, maybe the 45th parallel. It's the one where we solidified that line for the country. It's because Canada actually was fighting us, but they held off their line, and we just didn't think that we needed to manifest destiny up that way. Sea to shining sea, not sea to shining pole, the North Pole. You would be getting everything all the way up there.
They were trying to find Santa.
Okay, it is about that time. We're gonna have so much more information to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you all for tuning in today. Glad to be back. There's a lot that we're going to talk about too. Yeah, it's going to be a different podcast than what you saw from before, because we're going to have a green screen in front of all of it. No, yeah, we're glad that you joined in. We're going to have a lot more stuff for you. Definitely follow the social medias. There's going to be more activity on there. So we'll have some more stuff coming out. Definitely more skits. We've only done that one so far. We'll have to do more of those. So yeah, we'll set that up. Stay tuned. Thank you all for joining in tonight, today, anytime.
Whatever time it is where you are.
Yeah.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.